Hi! In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to sharpen a very difficult gouge. Now this is called a veiner, and it is also called, or number 11. And the reason it is called a veiner is a lot of times historically when people were carving acanthus leaves, this was a gouge that they used for making the vein lines in the leaves. And so it's basically shaped like a U. And if you can take a look at this, it's got two flat sides, but it's got a very large curved inside corner. And now the V-chisel is very difficult for its own reasons, but this is sometimes even more difficult because the veiners can actually get very, very small. A lot of times when you're doing a lot of those very detailed lines, this is actually one of the largest ones. I believe it's not actually labeled here, but I believe this is a 6mm. And I don't really use this one hardly at all. In fact, you'll see it's probably not very sharp because I don't use it. But when you're starting to get into the tinier ones, you see that this is a 2mm, and they go down to a 1mm, which is just minute. And when you have to sharpen one of those, first of all, metal gets removed very quickly because it's just a tiny amount of metal, and it can go bad very quickly. And it's just very hard to control because it's a very specific shape and very, very tricky. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do this on the large one just so you can see it, and then I'll show you how to do the small one also. Same positioning, just a lot more delicate. Okay, so as I said, we've got two flat sides and then we've got a very large rounded base. So differing from the V-chisel in that I focused on the two flat sides and then focused on the corner, I pretty much have to do this all in one movement. All right, because there's such a flow between the flat and the curved, it has to really have a continuous flow rather than ending up with sort of a corner. So let's just start and put some water on there. And the trick is, and I'm going to be using a technique very similar to in the lesson on how to sharpen a curved gouge, and I would recommend watching that first so you can get the basics of the whole process of sharpening. But the technique is very similar, only it's just a slightly different movement, which can be kind of tricky. So, okay, let's start out with, let's just color the back of this, dry it off first, so we can really get an idea of whether we're on the right track. Okay, now I want to take the same thing, just sort of rock it to where you feel it's a flat, and then start to rotate it. But when you reach that flat, you pretty much need to continue it without rotating it. So there's going to be a little area from that stone all the way to there where I'm not going to rotate it at all. I need to basically make sure that I'm hitting that flat, coming back, and then I start to rotate it. All right, and then I hit a flat, and then start to rotate, and then flat. Okay, so if I don't do that and I just simply sharpen it like a regular gouge, what's going to happen is it's not going to reach those outside corners, and eventually it'll actually come down there, and that you'll have these high peaks at the corner. Okay, so let's try it again. Flat, rotating it, and flat. So it's not a real smooth movement. It's sort of, you have to kind of think about it and rotate it, and then for that length of time you're going to be doing it as if that's a flat, well, it is a flat surface. All right, let's just take a look and see what's happening on the back side. Oh, that's going all over the place. But I think I'm on the right track. Looks like on this side it's hitting that side and also the tip. So let's try it. Let's just continue on flat. Now once you get the feel of it, you can go a lot faster. Okay, and I think it's hitting pretty much at the base there and also the tip, and the base there and also the tip. So, and this is pretty much covering the whole surface there. So I think it just needs to be a little bit more of the same. I'm going to go a little faster. Flat there, and then curve it, and then flat. So it's basically, you take about a third of the stone, and center is curved, and then the rest of it is flat, curved, and then flat. Okay, and so here we go. I'm going to fast forward this again. and get to the point where you get a little wire edge along the inside edge of the whole edge of that. And this is where it gets a little tricky if you don't have a slipstone that fits in. And let's just check it. Nope, see, that actually does not fit there. Sometimes you can use the part that is made for the V-chisel, which that might actually work right there. You can go in the inside of that and just go along. It's a very sort of tiny surface that it's hitting, so you just sort of walk it along. Just make sure you cover the whole surface so that that little metal wire is flipped to the back side, and then just do this a little bit more. Okay, and then back and forth. Again, the same process as the others, but okay, so you do that until that little metal wire edge falls off. This is where you may have to just take leather like this and just fold it so it can fit into these areas. Okay, and just take it, and because otherwise there's really not any part here. That is just too large. The V-chisel you might be able to, but you're probably not going to hit the edges. All right, you can probably do most of it with the V-chisel, but it's also going to end up tearing up the wood, so it doesn't fit there. So let's see, take it along there and just be very careful, because by this time it's pretty sharp and your fingers are very close to it. And this is what's nice sometimes about thicker leather like this, because it holds stiffer. Then just take on the back side of this and do the same thing. Okay, and just cover that whole surface. Okay, you can see though that that is actually a really tricky process, just trying to get that shape. Now, I want to show you how to do it on a very small scale. I'm going to use the 2mm veiner. And same thing, I'm going to take and rock it and flat and flat. And as you can see, a little hard to even see what's happening. In fact, it's probably even we wouldn't really be able to use that technique of taking the marker, because it's such a tiny little surface. Okay, so you do that, and you can barely even feel where there's a little burr, because you really can't get anything in there to check it. So what you end up doing is just looking at it and making sure that you've hit from there all the way to the tip, and just to make sure that it has reached the edge, and let's just at that point just hope that there's a burr or that little wire edge. And this is where, again, getting into it is very, very tricky, You can see that's just not going to fit. It's not going to go, it's not going to reach the base of that. So there's another handy technique. You can get sandpaper that can go up to, I don't even know how high, 3,000, 6,000, 9,000 grit sandpaper. And you can make your own custom slipstones. Now if you get that sandpaper, and just cut a little piece of it, and you can use it for other tools also. You can wrap it around a dowel, a piece of wood, and use it as a slipstone if you don't have your own slipstones. But for this particular thing, it's the only thing that will work, or I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of ways you can sort of get into it, but basically instead of using an actual stone, this is a technique you can use, and I just fold it. Now you may want to put something sort of stiff in here so it doesn't bend, but just come along here, and it doesn't seem to be that much of an issue, but I'm going to come there, and that will actually reach into the inside, and you can use that as a slipstone of removing that burr. And again, on the inside, or on the outside, do the same thing. Okay, curve and then length, curve. Right, and then back on the inside. Okay, next I'm going to just use the strop, really just drag it back. Now doing the inside of the strop is a little bit tricky again, and you can take this edge and the edge of this and just sort of drag it across like that, and it just right along the edge. Now you may be able to fit it into this V, but I doubt it. Well, you'll be able to get a lot of it, at least the edges. I've often joked about, when you dull your little tiny 1 and 2 millimeter veiner, it's time to go shopping. Just put it aside and go buy another one. But no, you need a challenge, and try it. You know, you never know. But it is probably one of the more frustrating ones to sharpen just because of the size of it.